Hunter x Hunter has a lot of hiatuses, for a good reason. One of its completed arcs is a genuine masterpiece. Its entire method of world building is outstanding, and its power system is original, easy to understand, and unlike anything else in the world of manga. With the news that Hunter x Hunter will no longer be published by Weekly Shonen Jump, news lingers in the air for where the series heads next. What lies in store for the future of Hunter x Hunter? Before we look at the future, we need to look at the past. This series came off the cusp of a short series which itself followed Togashi's first major success, and a major hit for the industry, Yu Yu Hakusho. What hasn't been said about it? Togashi finished the series early and gave out a letter of apology which went into the torture he puts himself through when writing manga, with his back pain becoming unbearable after enough time working at a desk. Initially, when his issues flared up, he could only sit in a chair for 10 minutes at a time. Towards more recent times, he hasn't actually sat in a chair for 3 years. If we look at the charted releases of the series, we can see that towards the end of Yu Yu Hakusho's release, Togashi had his first week-long hiatus. It's actually quite jaw-dropping to think that there was a time when he was publishing hundreds of chapters in a row. Though obviously, as we can see, the hiatus here happens right before the manga comes to an end, a swift one, as detailed in the apology. It's actually equally as impressive that he wrapped up the series in such an uninterrupted way too, back to back, even when he just didn't have the fight in him anymore. Just over a year later, and he started a short comedy manga called Level E. This was monthly and ran largely on track. Where there were missing releases, Togashi made up for any lost time with double releases, or perhaps it being in a monthly magazine, that was the way it released and there were no interruptions at all. It's hard to say, but the fact is that Level E was delivered more or less 100% effectively with no bumps along the way. A little over a year from this, we start Hunter x Hunter. It's interesting to note that the week breaks were originally the only issue, if you can even call that an issue. With the first breaks 12 weeks in, 24 weeks in, and 33 weeks in. From here, we head towards the end of the Hunter exam arc, where we get the first month-long break, and more often than not, it's the end of an arc which exacerbates the hiatus. This is especially the case now that we know that the Zoldyck family arc is actually just a sort of epilogue for the first arc, so there's a couple of months taken to round this off. Then, the Heavens Arena is almost a swift arc, but just as Gon and Killer would need to defeat the three brothers and train up, where we learn the intricacies of this power system, we get a lengthy little break, an understandable one. It splits the arc right in half, so the second half leads straight into the York New arc, which is actually impressively robust, mainly just week-long breaks. There were only 2 occasions for a break longer than a month, and even with the shift to Greed Island, only 3 weeks elapse. It might be strange to see how long the manga was releasing regularly for, because Greed Island is almost an aberration, where Togashi consistently both published and took breaks, with relatively short 2, 3, 4 chapter bursts, and similar length breaks, even towards the end. The arc is consistent, and this is, in and of itself, fairly deep into the story, more than 50% of what we have now. Perhaps, at least with Greed Island, Togashi's fondness for RPG games and the layout of this arc really compelled him to finish it quicker than the others. But for releases, it was a healthy time for Hunter x Hunter, and it's a shame to think back that it only ever got worse from here. With the Chimera Ant arc, the releases initially keep the same pace as the Greed Island arc, but you can see the downwards trajectory, where there would be 3 releases for every 2 breaks, now there would be 2 releases for every 3. And shortly after the introduction for the arc, we get the first hiatus to last over a year, with a year and a half elapsing before strings of chapters. This is the beginning of the 10-chapter trend, where Togashi goes away, scripts, storyboards, builds himself up, then unleashes a prolonged development time purely to draw, and then goes back to the drawing board when a volume's worth of content has been written. Single years between these trends close out the Chimera Ant arc, and quickly deliver the Hunter Chairman election arc, one of the shortest arcs so far. Then, from there, the rest is history, the Dark Continent arc. 2 years for a staggered batch of 10, 2 years follow it for the next batch, then another year, then, shockingly, 6 months and 6 months again. He came back so soon, jokingly due to someone working at Nissin Noodles, who sent him a bunch of noodles for free. But unfortunately, noodles aren't an effective course of treatment, because this batch ending gave us the near 4-year hiatus, which brings us to the most recent batch. For years, the only window, little as it was, into Togashi's life was the author comment at the end of each chapter in the manga, Weekly Shonen Jump. It only came with releases, so there were years and years where people were genuinely writing into Shueisha and asking if Togashi was okay. I myself considered making a fan letter, akin to the one that SkullKnight.net sent to Hakusensha, and Miura actually responded, the only time he would ever directly respond to international fans. I didn't write a letter in the end, and anyway, it turns out to be a good call, because with this last batch, Togashi opened up a Twitter account purely for posting progress on the manga. It was here that we learnt he was unable to sit comfortably for longer than 10 minutes in a row, that he resorted to drawing whilst lying down, attempted digital drawings, all the while giving us a peek behind the curtain to see how he works on a batch pretty evenly for all stages of production. It was everything we'd wanted for years. He started drawing on his back, drawing whilst wandering around, trying new methods, and seeing what works. We learned that these batches are literally not even fully finished and can be needing touch-ups. For example, the 380 to 390 batch, after 4 years, got touched up for the volume release, and the front cover was officially worked on after everything else. So this latest batch, and every potential latest batch, isn't the final version, and the volume cover isn't done until the start of the next batch. The silver lining is that even learning downsides is a good thing, in the face of learning nothing at all, something which we've had to live with for years. Unfortunately, we've heard nothing since the end of the last batch, so the official future of the manga is left with Togashi wanting to alleviate the bother of the situation from others, open to new avenues and willing to update us. The manga will continue in a new magazine, and if it's anything like D. Greyman or World Trigger, both Weekly Shonen Jump series which jumped ship, then we'll get 1 or 2 more chapters in Weekly Shonen Jump to advertise the next magazine to us, and then it will move. We will probably hear from Togashi personally using his Twitter again in the future too. Similar to World Trigger, I wonder if Togashi will keep the page count for his chapters and simply release 2 chapters every release. Switching from weekly to monthly is almost a different medium. Weekly series often provide 20-page chapters, whilst monthly manga push more towards the 40s and 50s in terms of page count. Because of this, Ashihara usually releases 2 chapters back to back, retaining the 20 pages like he used to write in Weekly Shonen Jump. This also gets around any issues of pacing and structure, instead of having to relearn it in a way, and also clash with the precedent of the series itself. It can maintain how it was. So technically we could be getting 2 chapters a month. And then we have the author of D. Greyman, Katsura Hoshino. She tried to adapt to the new method, so there is a point in D. Greyman where the page count goes from 20-page chapters to 50-page chapters. But obviously she has issues of her own. Go and check out the Genius of D. Greyman and Artistic Evolution videos if you want to see more about her. But basically nowadays she just publishes whatever number of pages she can even reach. But yeah, one day we will get Hunter x Hunter in a new magazine, and with it a whole slew of decisions for Togashi to make. For a little analysis into what may come next story-wise, it might be pleasant to know that the richness of Togashi's writing is as strong as ever, even in his illustrations. For the front cover of the manga there are symbolic metaphors and foreshadowings, and in terms of the immediate future of Hunter x Hunter, here's something I've noticed. In the 35th volume cover there's Kurapika in the foreground and the 12 princes around the succession ceremony urn. It's a great little image for the point of this arc as a whole, but if we take a closer look, we see over them all is King Nasubi. In terms of the placement of the princes, we have Benjamin and Kamala, the most aggressive pair of princes, who are actively engaging war with the others. But at the bottom of the illustration, there's something interesting to note. First of all, Wobble is in the foreground, so he's not a part of this composition, being covered by Kurapika, his protector. At the actual underside of this urn, going up on the left, we have Momose, Kacho, and Sail. These people are all dead, and they have all died in ascending order. You could even say they were crushed underneath the idea of the succession war. That brings an interesting element to the progress that Tyson's story has had lately, with allies vouching for love and peace left and right. Like Halkenberg, his Nen Beast's ability may strengthen after death, and the effect of these two may carry on well after either of their deaths. It also has to be said that character-wise, Tyson doesn't really have a lot going on up there. My guess, anyway, is that this illustration is a big old metaphor for the entire arc, and Benjamin will be responsible for Tyson's death next. What do you think is in store for the future of Hunter x Hunter, both release-wise and story-wise? But if you want to see my ideas on the further future of the story, check out the world of Hunter x Hunter. If you want to look at the status quo and understand everything that's simultaneously happening, then give the insane scope of Hunter x Hunter review. This video rounds off the set of Hunter x Hunter videos I started working on for the recent batch. From here on out, I guess we'll see if the future of Hunter x Hunter 2024 is even something worth making. Thanks for watching, but thanks also to my patrons. If you want early access to scripts and videos, head over to my Patreon and pledge for a single $1 a month. There's also a couple of Patreon exclusive videos on there. Thanks very much, and have a wonderful night.